They said it was just a child's promise, but he married the alien girl. The first time Alex Reeves saw a real alien, he was 9 years old and had just fallen out of his favorite climbing tree. "Are you damaged?" asked a melodic voice from somewhere above him. Alex blinked through tears of pain and embarrassment to see a figure silhouetted against the summer sky. At first, he thought it was another kid from town, but as his vision cleared, he realized this was no human child. The girl, at least he thought it was a girl, had iridescent blue-violet skin that seemed to shimmer in the dappled sunlight. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, entirely silver with no visible pupils, and delicate ridges traced her forehead and cheeks. "I'm not broken," Alex said, scrambling to his feet despite his throbbing ankle. "Just stupid. Mom says I climbed too high." The alien girl tilted her head. "My parent guardian says similar things about my explorations." Her voice had an unusual cadence, like water flowing over stones. "I am Alira. My family's ship experienced a malfunction and made emergency landing nearby." "I'm Alex," he replied, suddenly forgetting all about his ankle. "Your family has a spaceship. For real, can I see it?" Alira hesitated. "It is damaged. Others of my kind are coming to retrieve us, but it will take 3 local day cycles." She looked around nervously. "My parent guardian instructed me to remain hidden, but I heard your laughter and—" She paused. "I have not encountered non-Vashani children before." Alex grinned. "I've never met an alien before either. This is awesome." He glanced around conspiratorially. "I won't tell anyone if you don't want me to. Where are you hiding?" For the next 3 days, Alex made excuses to his parents about exploring the woods, while actually spending every possible moment with Alira. He showed her his collection of comic books, taught her to skip stones across the creek, and introduced her to peanut butter sandwiches, which she declared fascinatingly textured. In return, she taught him words in her language and showed him a small device that created dazzling holographic star maps. "This is my home," she said on the 3rd day, pointing to a distant star system. "The Great Council has only recently permitted contact with Earth." "Is that why your ship crashed? Because you're not supposed to be here." Alira's skin darkened slightly. "My parent guardian is a scientist studying your world's oceans. Our presence was authorized but limited. Now others must come for us, which will bring attention." They sat beside the creek, watching water bugs skitter across the surface. Alex felt a heaviness in his chest. "You're leaving tomorrow, aren't you?" "Yes, the retrieval vessel arrives at next dawn." "Will you ever come back?" Alex asked, kicking at a stone. "Perhaps, when I complete my education, I might choose diplomatic service. Then I could return to Earth." "Promise you'll remember me if you do," Alex blurted. Alira's face brightened, literally, her skin glowing slightly brighter. "I promise, Vashani do not forget friends." In that moment, staring at the alien girl who had become his best friend in just 3 days, Alex felt a surge of childish certainty. "When I grow up," he declared solemnly, "I'm going to marry you." Alira made a tinkling sound that he'd learned was laughter. "Marriage is a human bonding ritual, yes? You wish to form a permanent pair bond with me?" "Yep," Alex said with absolute conviction. "It's a promise." As the sun set on their final day together, Alira pressed a small, glimmering stone into Alex's palm. "A memory token," she explained, "so you will remember your promise." By morning, she was gone. The clearing where they'd met showed no sign of Alira or her family, only a perfect circle of flattened grass where her rescue ship had landed. Alex clutched the shimmering stone and made another promise to himself. Someday, somehow, he would find her again. 15 years had transformed Alex Reeves from a tree-climbing child into a junior diplomatic liaison with the newly established Interspecies Relations Department. His colleagues attributed his specialized knowledge of Vashani culture to diligent study rather than childhood memories. The iridescent stone he wore on a chain beneath his collar remained his secret, along with the promise made beside a forest creek all those years ago. "Reeves, you're assigned to the welcoming committee for the Vashani delegation," his supervisor announced, sliding a dossier across the desk. "Ambassador Nelari arrives tomorrow." Alex's heart quickened. "Ambassador Nelari, that's not the name I expected." "Ambassador Alira Nelari, to be precise. First Vashani diplomat assigned permanent residency on Earth. Given your expertise on their customs, you'll help ensure no cultural missteps." That night, Alex could barely sleep. He spent hours staring at the ceiling of his apartment, the memory stone clutched in his hand, pulsing faintly with its inner light. Was it really her? Had she risen so high in Vashani society? And if so, would she remember a human child and his impulsive promise? The diplomatic reception hall buzzed with nervous energy the following day. Humans in formal attire mingled awkwardly with representatives from 3 other alien species who had established relations with Earth in recent years. Alex stood near the entrance, adjusting his tie repeatedly until his colleague Maya batted his hand away. "Relax, Alex. You've been studying Vashani culture for years. If anyone's prepared, it's you." Before he could respond, the room fell silent. Through the grand doors came 4 Vashani, their blue-violet skin shimmering like living opals under the reception lights. 3 were clearly security personnel, but the 4th, slightly ahead and adorned with intricate silver markings on her face and arms, could only be Ambassador Nelari. It was Alira, unmistakably. She had grown taller, her movements more measured and graceful than the curious child he'd known. The ridges along her forehead and cheeks had developed intricate patterns that Alex knew signified high social standing among her people. But her eyes remained the same, liquid silver pools that seemed to capture all light. Alex's supervisor stepped forward to make introductions, working through the assembled dignitaries. When Alex's turn came, he performed the traditional Vashani greeting perfectly, a slight bow with palms upturned. "Ambassador Nelari, may I present Alex Reeves, one of our specialists in Vashani cultural relations." Alira's silver eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "Alex Reeves," she repeated, her melodic voice exactly as he remembered, though deeper. "How fascinating." "We are honored by your presence, Ambassador," Alex said formally, struggling to maintain his composure. As he straightened from his bow, the memory stone slipped from beneath his collar, catching the light. Alira's gaze fixed on it instantly. A ripple of blue light, surprise Alex knew from his studies, passed across her skin. "Perhaps," she said after a measured pause, "we might speak privately later, Mr. Reeves. I have questions about certain aspects of human diplomatic custom." Hours later, after endless rounds of formalities, Alex found himself in a small garden terrace attached to the reception hall. Alira stood by a fountain, studying the falling water with apparent fascination. "You kept it," she said without turning. "The memory token." Alex touched the stone at his throat. "I did." "And you pursued a career that would reconnect you with my people." "With you," he clarified, "specifically you." Alira turned then, her expression unreadable to most humans, but Alex recognized the subtle crinkle around her eyes, amusement. "The promise of a child," she said softly. "It is endearing that you remember our friendship so fondly." Alex felt his certainty waver. Of course she wouldn't take a 9-year-old's marriage proposal seriously. They were adults now, representatives of different worlds with responsibilities and complexities far beyond childhood games. "It was more than that to me," he admitted. "That meeting changed my life's course." Alira studied him curiously. "Among my people, words spoken with true intent are considered binding even from the very young, but we would never hold a human child to such standards." She smiled gently. "Still, I am pleased our meeting affected you positively. Perhaps it was fortunate destiny that brought us together again." As diplomats began filtering into the garden, Alira resumed her formal posture. "We shall speak again, Alex Reeves. There is much to discuss between our worlds." She rejoined her delegation, leaving Alex beside the fountain, clutching his memory stone and wondering if his childhood promise now seemed as alien to her as their worlds were to each other. Over the following weeks, Alex's position granted him regular interaction with Ambassador Alira and her delegation. Each meeting was a delicate dance of professional diplomacy and personal history, neither of which they openly acknowledged before others. "The treaty provisions for scientific exchange are acceptable," Alira stated during one negotiation session, "but the Vashani Council requires clarification on intellectual property rights." Alex nodded, making notes. "I'll draft revised language for review." When the meeting ended, he found himself alone with Alira as others filed out. She lowered her voice. "You have studied our customs extensively. I wanted to understand your world. Yet you missed crucial contexts," she observed. "For instance, do you know what a memory token traditionally signifies among Vashani?" Alex hesitated, A keepsake between friends, I assumed. A shimmer of amusement crossed Elira's skin. Memory tokens are exchanged only between those with potential for lifelong bonds. They are typically given during courtship evaluation periods. Alex's face flushed. You gave me a courtship token when we were children. I was young and impulsive, Elira admitted. Fascinated by human customs, when you made your promise of marriage, I responded with our equivalent without understanding the implications. She paused. My parent guardian was quite concerned when I explained what had transpired. The revelation stunned Alex. So when I promised to marry you, and I gave you the token, she finished, we accidentally initiated a preliminary bonding ritual by Vashani standards. Before Alex could process this information, they were interrupted by Marcus Thornton, head of Earth's diplomatic security. Ambassador Mr. Reeves, he nodded curtly. A word of caution, certain factions are displeased with the pace of these negotiations. Exercise heightened awareness. After Thornton departed, Elira's expression grew serious. There are those among my people who also oppose our presence here. The ancestral purists believe interspecies diplomacy dilutes Vashani cultural integrity. That evening, Alex received an unexpected message from Elira, requesting his presence at the Vashani compound for a cultural orientation session. Intrigued, he arrived to find her in a garden designed to mimic Vashani landscapes, strange crystalline formations amid luminescent plants. Elira wore informal attire, her diplomatic markings temporarily subdued. I wish to show you something of my true home, she explained, guiding him to a small table laden with peculiar foods and a glowing flask. Essence of remembrance, she said, pouring 2 small cups. It enhances recollection. Among friends, it allows shared memories to resurface with perfect clarity. Alex hesitated. Is this wise, given our official positions? Perhaps not, Elira admitted. But I find myself curious about the human child who made such a bold promise, and about the adult he became. They drank. The liquid tasted like starlight might, impossible to describe but undeniably beautiful. Almost immediately, Alex felt memories surge forward with crystalline clarity. Elira teaching him Vashani counting games, him showing her how to make paper boats, both of them watching fireflies with wide-eyed wonder. You taught me to skip stones, Elira murmured, her eyes distant with recollection. I practiced for years afterward. You showed me constellations from your homeworld, Alex countered. I became an amateur astronomer because of it. As the evening progressed, Alex learned about Vashani bonding traditions, complex rituals spanning years of mutual evaluation and compatibility assessment. He realized with growing amazement that his childhood promise carried weight in her culture that he'd never imagined. Had we both been Vashani, Elira explained, our childhood interaction would have initiated a formal bond path to be confirmed or rejected upon maturity. And now, Alex asked carefully. Elira's skin darkened with what Alex recognized as their equivalent of a blush. Now we are representatives of different worlds with responsibilities beyond ourselves. She hesitated. But the memory token you've carried all these years, its significance is not diminished by time. As Alex prepared to leave, Elira placed a formal document in his hands. Tomorrow we discuss cultural exchange programs. This proposal would benefit from your perspective before the meeting. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, sending an unmistakable current between them, one that transcended species and spoke to possibilities neither had voiced aloud. Some promises, Elira whispered, echo across years in ways we cannot predict. Alex clutched the document, understanding that their personal and professional worlds were becoming increasingly, perhaps dangerously, intertwined. 3 months into the Vashani delegation's residence on Earth, alarms blared through the diplomatic compound at 3 a.m. Alex, who had been working late reviewing cultural exchange proposals, found himself running toward the Vashani wing alongside security personnel. What's happening? He demanded of Thornton, who looked grimmer than usual. Someone breached Ambassador Nellari's quarters. She's secure, but a ceremonial artifact was stolen, something significant to their people. Alex's blood ran cold. The ancestral sphere. You know of it. It's a repository of Vashani historical records and cultural identity. They brought it as a gesture of trust. Inside a secure conference room, Alira sat rigid with tension, her skin pulsing with dark indigo patterns that Alex recognized as signs of extreme distress. When she saw him, something in her posture eased slightly. "Alex," she acknowledged, "the ancestral sphere contains irreplaceable historical data. More importantly, its presence on Earth was opposed by the purists. This theft will be seen as validation of their warnings against sharing our heritage with outsiders." Security footage revealed little. The perpetrators had disabled most systems with surprising expertise. Within hours, a message arrived from a group calling themselves Earth First. The sphere would be returned only if the Vashani suspended all technology exchange programs. "They're trying to sabotage the Alliance," Alex realized. The next day brought worse news. Vashani extremists had seized upon the incident, demanding their delegation's immediate recall. The High Council issued an ultimatum: recover the sphere within 3 Earth days or diplomatic relations would be severed. "I need your help," Alira told Alex privately. "There's something about the sphere that few outsiders know." She explained that the sphere contained a tracking element, detectable only through a resonance with Vashani biosignatures, or with another object from the same crystalline formation. Like a memory token, Alex realized, touching the stone at his throat. Together, they modified a scanning device to detect the specific frequency emitted by Alex's token. Working through the night, they narrowed the sphere's location to an abandoned industrial complex outside the city. What they didn't expect was to discover both human nationalists and Vashani purists working in concert. "They're collaborating to sabotage our alliance," Alira whispered as they observed the facility from a distance. "Neither group wants successful interspecies relations." Security forces from both species planned a coordinated raid, but Alex identified a fatal flaw in their approach. "The sphere responds to emotional states," he explained to the tactical team. "Aggression will trigger its defensive protocols, potentially destroying the data within." "What do you suggest, Reeves?" Thornton asked skeptically. "Ambassador Nelari and I go in first, alone." Hours later, using Alex's memory token as a dampening field, they navigated the facility's security measures. They found the sphere in a makeshift laboratory, already partially disassembled by scientists trying to access its technology. "We can't move it in this state," Alira said urgently. "It's destabilizing." Alex studied the sphere, then his memory token. "Your people created both from the same material. What if we use the token to re-establish balance?" "That would require a harmonizing ritual," Alira said hesitantly. "A deepening of the bond the token represents." Their eyes met in silent understanding. This was no longer about childhood promises or diplomatic relations. It was about trust transcending species boundaries. As armed extremists discovered their presence and security forces engaged in diversionary tactics outside, Alex and Alira performed an ancient Vashani bonding ritual. His memory token, placed against the damaged sphere, began to pulse with increasing brightness. The sphere responded, its fractures sealing as the token gradually dissolved into its surface. "Your token," Alira whispered. "A fair exchange," Alex replied. "One memory for many." When security forces finally breached the lab, they found Alex and Alira standing beside a fully restored ancestral sphere, their hands intertwined in a gesture that required no cultural translation. The crisis had been averted, but something fundamental had changed between them, and between their worlds. The conspiracy's exposure revealed profound fears on both sides about cultural exchange, but also demonstrated the power of individual connections to bridge seemingly insurmountable divides. As they departed the facility, Alira's skin glowed with a pattern Alex had never seen before. "What does that signify?" he asked quietly. "It is the pattern of one who has found their resonant other," she replied. "It is rare even among my own people." The diplomatic reception hall, the same one where Ambassador Alira had first returned to Alex's life, was now transformed for an unprecedented ceremony. Representatives from Earth and 4 allied species gathered to witness what news outlets were calling the most significant interspecies cultural event in human history. Alex stood before a mirror, adjusting ceremonial attire that blended human formal wear with traditional Vashani elements. The recovery of the ancestral sphere had evolved from a diplomatic crisis into a catalyst for deeper understanding between their peoples. What no one outside their closest confidants knew was how personal that catalyst had been. "Nervous?" asked Maya, now promoted to Alex's former position after he'd been appointed special envoy to Vashani. "Terrified," Alex admitted. "What if I mispronounce the ritual words?" "After everything you two have been through, she'd probably find it endearing." The aftermath of the sphere incident had transformed interspecies relations. The conspiracy between human and Vashani extremists had exposed deep-seated fears, but also created an opportunity for honest dialogue about cultural preservation amidst exchange. Both governments had accelerated integration programs while implementing stronger cultural protection protocols. And in the center of this diplomatic whirlwind stood Alex and Alira, their personal bond becoming symbolic of what cooperation could achieve. "The Vashani High Council has arrived," announced an aide. Alex took a deep breath. The formal bonding request had required approval at the highest levels of both governments. No human and Vashani had ever attempted a recognized partnership before. There were practical complications, biological differences, lifespan disparities, inheritance considerations, all addressed in hundreds of pages of unprecedented legal frameworks. But at its heart, this day was about a promise made beside a creek 15 years ago. The ceremony began with representatives from both worlds recounting the history of human-Vashani relations. When Alex's turn came to speak, he faced the assembled dignitaries with quiet confidence. "As a child, I made a promise beside a forest creek to someone who showed me the stars from a new perspective. Today, I stand before you to honor that promise, not just because of words spoken in childhood, but because two people from different worlds discovered that what unites us is stronger than what separates us." Alira, resplendent in ceremonial attire that made her skin shimmer like captured starlight, stepped forward. The patterns on her skin pulsed with emotions visible to all her people. "In Vashani tradition," she began, "true bonds are recognized not by declarations, but by actions that demonstrate resonance. The human before you surrendered a memory token to save my people's heritage. In doing so, he completed a bonding ritual begun in childhood without either of us fully understanding its significance. From a crystalline container, she withdrew a new memory token, larger and more intricately patterned than the one Alex had carried for years. This token contains an imprint of both our memories," she explained. "Neither fully human nor fully Vashani, but something new, something shared." Together, they placed the token in a specially designed housing at the center of the hall, where it projected a gentle field of light encompassing all present. "By traditions both ancient and newly created," declared the Vashani High Council representative, "we recognize this bond between worlds." The human official nodded in agreement. "May this union demonstrate that promises made in good faith, even by children, can grow into bridges between stars." As formal protocols concluded, Alex and Alira stood together beneath the light of their shared memories. What had begun as a child's impulsive promise had evolved into something neither world had imagined possible. "Did you ever think," Alex whispered, "when you found me beneath that tree that we would end up here?" Alira's skin rippled with patterns of joy. "Children see possibilities that adults often miss. Perhaps that is why your promise resonated so deeply. You saw no reason why it couldn't be fulfilled." "And now we build something new," she replied, taking his hand. "Something neither of our worlds has seen before." As they moved among the gathered representatives, their joined presence created a harmony that transcended formal diplomacy. Scientists noted unusual resonance patterns between their biofields. Cultural anthropologists documented emerging shared expressions and gestures. Diplomats observed how their natural synchronicity facilitated complex negotiations. But for Alex and Alira, standing beneath Earth's night sky later that evening, pointing out constellations to each other just as they had as children, it was simpler. A promise made, a promise kept, and all the stars between transformed by that journey. "I still can't skip stones as well as you taught me," Alira confessed, her head against his shoulder. "And I still get the names of your home constellations wrong," Alex replied with a smile. Some promises they had learned were worth crossing the universe to fulfill.